this idea that we can rely on one film a weekend to drive box office, I think we see when that's what happens and that film doesn't work, that we're in trouble. And sometimes that happens 3 weeks in a row and we're in big trouble. So I think having a diverse slate of content, hitting different audiences, and the cinema thrives.
This is the Box Office Podcast. I'm Daniel Loria, the editorial director of Box Office Pro, the pulse of theatrical exhibition. And in this week's episode, we'll be speaking with Brandon Purdie, the EVP of Global Distribution over at Angel Studios, where he will be previewing some of Angel's biggest titles coming to a theater near you in 2025. Our own little mini slate presentation from our friends over at Angel. That is happening in the second half of the episode, because in the first half of the episode, we have to talk about it. Everyone's talking about it. Nobody knows what it means. We've got some Trump tariffs to discuss, potentially. Are they even Trump tariffs? Are they incentives? No one knows. We're going to be here guessing right along with you, giving you the facts as much as we can. In our panel this week, making his grand return, we've got Russ Fischer from the Box Office Studios. We've got Rebecca Pahle and Chad Kennerk from Box Office Pro. Guys, more government talk. I hope you're ready.
Any of us ready? Does anyone know what this stuff means or how it's going to shake out?
Let's see if we can make any sense of this. But before we get started on that end, let's go over the weekend numbers here, because we had a major Marvel title from Disney coming out over the weekend. Thunderbolts opened to $74 million domestically and $86 million overseas from 52 markets. Not the start that we thought it could have had. If you remember from our forecasting, we thought this would land somewhere in the 80s. We did warn folks, high to mid 70s, definitely a possibility. That ended up being the case here. I don't think we have any alarm bells to sound. The performance here is on par to Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings and Ant-Man and the Wasp. Performance on par with both those titles. One post-pandemic Marvel thing, one pre-pandemic Marvel thing. Word of mouth seems to be positive. Reviews seem to be okay. Cinema score of A-, an 88% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. Russ, I guess the bigger question now is, we had an opening weekend for Captain America: Brave New World earlier this year at 88 million. An opening weekend for Thunderbolts at 74 million. Do we expect the Fantastic Four in July to come in the middle, surpass or exceed these results?
My guess is to be on par with Captain America is where I'm going to fall right now with Fantastic Four. It's an unknown quantity for a lot of people, as, just as Thunderbolts was, despite the fact that Thunderbolts, we've seen some version of all these characters before, but people clearly didn't really know exactly what to expect, which is part of why, Marvel is executing this planned rebranding now a week after the movie has opened. It's effectively retitled The New Avengers. Like, is that what's going to be on the Blu-ray case? Or
yeah, so that's what the asterisk is, essentially.
That's the twist. Spoiler alert. Sorry, it's everywhere online.
I mean, they're posting it on their official social channels, so I figure at this point, yeah.
If you look it up on Rotten Tomatoes, the poster is the New Avengers poster. And we've known since that asterisk was added to the title, it was like, okay, clearly they're going to do something with the title of this movie or the name of the team, and something Avengers related was the most obvious guess. And so none of this is really a surprise.
Yeah, it's not super, it's pretty much as expected there.
But people like the movie, and that's good. Whereas, the Captain America movie seems to have kind of like quickly fallen off the map in terms of interest. And so, the general consensus seems to be like, all right, this is, a move in the right direction for Marvel.
Captain America, we mentioned, opened to 88 million domestically, topped out around 200 million domestically. We do expect Thunderbolts to have at least a 10% improvement in its domestic theatrical run. So we're looking at 220 million plus here in the US, Canada. Chad, you've seen the film out of all of us. What did you think?
I felt like it was a great return to form for Marvel. It tackles big, relatable feelings, and it puts those at the forefront rather than being an afterthought. And so genre films, for me, they're at their best when they're talking about real things through fantasy. It's a great popcorn movie, and it's the first chance that I've really given Marvel in a while, and I'm glad that I did.
How is your anticipation level, like interest level, for Fantastic Four now compared to pre-seeing the movie? I assume there's little seeds of setups sown throughout the film, and then various credit sequences.
Yeah, they're definitely setting up and keying into Fantastic Four being a period film. I think that's a little more interesting. We haven't really seen that from the MCU before. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how they tie it all together, which isn't clear yet.
And I mean, there's, everybody, we've seen the trailers for Fantastic Four. Like you say, we understand it's a period movie of some sort, but also figure like, well, okay, it's not set in the main universe or whatever. And having some ties built into Thunderbolts / New Avengers maybe helps people understand like, oh, this is not some unrelated story that's going to take a long time to pay off in a way that matters, to your average viewer. Like maybe people get to know like, oh, okay, there's a reason that they're doing this movie when they're doing it. So, hopefully that helps.
I think Fantastic Four is going to set up what this phase 6 is going to look like, and if I'm going to be excited for Doomsday or not.
That's crucial. Yeah, that's important. And so it's good to hear that at least reception of this film has been a little bit more positive than some of the other non-Deadpool post-pandemic Marvel movies. Of course, premium format's playing a huge role in the opening weekend success of Thunderbolts. I'm sorry, the New Avengers. I'm just calling it Thunderbolts. I'm not playing this game.
Yeah, I don't like it's still Edge of Tomorrow. It's not Live, Die, Repeat.
Yeah.
It's still Birds of Prey. It's not.
Give me a break.
I'm curious to see how aggressively they go with marketing this week. And it's like, can you market a New Avengers movie in a week? Can you tell people that it's like, oh no, you thought you weren't interested, but actually, by the way, it's kind of an Avengers movie.
Pin in this title thing. The New Avengers is a great title. Chad, you have a great line that I think about a lot. That the title sells the movie. The title tells you all you need to know. Mm-hmm. What's Thunderbolts? Nobody has any idea. Someone has to tell you it's a Marvel movie. Maybe you see a trailer somewhere. New Avengers, you know what that is. Go buy a ticket.
Why did they go with that in the first place? That one I don't get.
So PLF, great for the title, 43% of the entire opening weekend. And as we look on this impact of premium formats here in the marketplace, we've got a new bit of news here from Cineplex, a leading Canadian chain, announcing a VIP discount Wednesday in Canada across its Canadian theaters. Chad, can you tell us a little bit more about this concept?
Cineplex is offering the opportunity on Wednesdays throughout the month of May for guests 19 and up, 18 and up, if you're in Alberta, Manitoba, or Quebec, to enjoy the VIP Cinemas auditoriums there, which is a dine-in auditorium that features an expanded menu, basically getting that for the price of a regular ticket plus your booking fee versus the normal VIP price.
The new way to look at discount days, which I really like. There's always the important discount day of getting the original admission price lowered. But if you can go a little bit past that on your off-peak period, get one of those VIP auditoriums, premium auditoriums, and lower that ticket price, even just slightly, I think that starts to really fulfill one of those ideas that we heard at CinemaCon, which is let's really focus on this price-value relationship. Price is just the wrong way to put it because, of course, pricing can go up and down. We can point to historical price against inflation, but price value, I think, is a sweet spot here when we talk to moviegoers. It's making sure that the moviegoer feels they're getting great value for that ticket cost. And I like this initiative from Cineplex. I'd love to see this more across more circuits.
If I've never been into a VIP auditorium there, but I get to go for the price of a regular movie ticket, I love that experience. Now I want to go back.
$35 premium ticket price in circuits in New York City. The sticker shock that maybe some consumers can react to, even one of the new premium concepts, right? Let's say immersive seating or let's say panoramic screens. At $35, I think that's a little bit of a barrier to entry. But if you can discount it and make that experience for the first time accessible, I think there's a good chance once the moviegoer sees what they can get for that cost, they're going to be a little bit more likely to buy a second or third ticket in that format. So yeah, it's a really interesting story to track. I know AMC has had great success by adding all their premium concepts in their AMC A-list subscription at no additional cost. So I think this is going to be part of the future here as we talk about pricing and price value at the movies. Unfortunately, not all the news is good here in this industry. In the United States, we just got word from the National Endowment of the Arts that grants given out to cultural institutions are no longer going to be either honored or given. What exactly is going on here, Rebecca? Because I know a lot of exhibitors, especially in the nonprofit side, may be affected by this news.
Yeah, it's definitely concerning. I believe it was last Friday, so almost a week ago, as you're listening to this episode on Thursday, cultural institutions across the United States, that including, a variety of arts organizations, but particularly relevant to this podcast, nonprofit like art cinemas or exhibit organizations, film festivals, things of that nature, have begun getting word that their grants from the NEA have been canceled. A lot of those cinemas, nonprofits, rely on these grants in order to just keep the doors open and keep their programming going. We keep up with the story as it develops, but definitely a stressful weekend for a lot of people in the independent and art house cinema scene in the US, particularly.
And we'll be tracking this story a lot more closely on boxofficepro.com as more confirmed details emerge. If you go on our website, especially this week, as we get word from tariffs and initiatives from the government, and you don't see it updated with these stories, it's because simply we don't have anything solid to report.
Mhm.
Right now, we're very much on the your guess is as good as mine basis.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the coverage you're seeing in a lot of publications reflect that. And that leads us into the next topic in this episode. On Sunday night, I'm playing my weekly indoor soccer game, and Russ texts the group chat with a screenshot of President Trump having some interesting words to say.
In this particular case, like you, I wondered if it was real, but it quickly was confirmed that it was. And so, yeah.
So let me read this statement out that Trump put out on Truth Social from Donald J. Trump's account. Quote, "The movie industry in America is dying in capital letters, a very fast death. Other countries are offering all sorts of incentives to draw our filmmakers and studios away from the United States. Hollywood and many areas within the USA are being devastated. This is a concerted effort by other nations and therefore a national security threat. It is, in addition to everything else, messaging and propaganda. Therefore, I am authorizing the Department of Commerce and the United States Trade Representative to immediately begin the process of instituting a 100% tariff on any and all movies coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. We want movies made in America again." That is a post made on Truth Social by President Trump on May 4th. A lot to go into here, a lot of reactions, I think, because this is big on bluster, but light on substance. So kind of leaves us to have to guess and
What does it mean? What does he mean? What is 100% tariff on
foreign
movies produced in foreign lands? Yeah.
Let's organize this conversation in the following ways, just to frame our discussion, because otherwise I think we're going to get lost here. And it's been a maze of logistics, even understanding how Sunday Night to Here has come about.
It is worth mentioning that this is against the backdrop of many other convoluted and inconsistent tariff conversations, which are floated, put into action, just as quickly rolled back or modified or whatever. And so the entire tariff conversation in the last 6 weeks has been very difficult to follow, very difficult to parse on a day-to-day level because it changes constantly.
That's very well put, Russ. It's hard for us to understand the context of these specific statements. The context in general is, as Russ states, inconsistent at best.
Mhm.
So what we can begin this discussion with is, yes, this is real. No, it wasn't a joke. And on Monday morning, we heard from the White House a statement that seemed to walk a lot of that statement back. What exactly did they walk back? They walked back the idea of tariff being imposed into foreign produced films immediately. It seems like there's no real preparation to do that on an imminent sense, meaning in the coming days or weeks, or as far as I know, there isn't. And there was no mention whatsoever of the foreign propaganda threat that took a huge chunk of that second part of that original post. So the White House walked back the tariff part of the statement, did not mention the threat of foreign influence that the president claimed exists, and after that did express its support for increasing film production in the United States. Film and tax incentives and production incentives, which is a traditional route that we see associated with promoting production anywhere in the world, instead of doing that, it's imposing a tariff on this. We're not going to touch on the whole foreign threat aspect of this. I'm a little lost on that. I think that might be more on the ideology politics part of this and not germane to the industry conversation. Let's tackle this right now from the perspective of is a tariff a realistic solution to helping film production domestically? And B, if it is, how would that work? Russ, we've been talking about this for a couple of days. How would this work if it could?
My first take on this is that I wonder about the degree to which any internal conversation in the White House is modeling the concept of these tariffs after China's approach to regulating non-domestic product in theaters. And if there's a concept of instituting something similar. But how does a tariff work? I mean, a movie is not a thing that comes into the country on a ship. And so it presents significant problems just from a logistical perspective. And that's presupposing that we concretely define what a foreign produced movie actually is.
Are you talking about production, pre-production, post-production? Are you talking about where it's filmed, who brings the money in? I mean,
is a John Wick movie that shoots in Bulgaria a foreign production? You know, there are so many questions that have no answers. And so setting aside the concept of, like Rebecca is saying, you know, what constitutes a domestically or a foreign produced movie? Clearly a movie which is entirely produced outside the United States would fall under this umbrella. Okay, fine. But then, are you taxing the entity? Are you taxing the distributor? Are you taxing the exhibitor?
The production company?
The production, I mean,
it's definitely punitive, as Daniel, as you noted, as opposed to an incentive to produce in the United States, but punitive against
whom?
Against who? Against what?
And I think that
ultimately against the consumer is who it's really punitive against.
Right. And that's an issue. Now, let's also clarify. It would be extremely difficult from a logistical level for this to trickle, if it's instituted at all, and we'll go into why it's difficult to institute in more detail in a second, but I can't see how this trickles down to the consumer on any realistic basis. Now, the challenge here in making sense of this is understanding how exactly do you impose a tariff on a film? An exhibitor told me on background as I was doing research on this, a very good point. A movie isn't a good, it's a service. The act of watching a movie isn't something you own. It's like getting a haircut or getting a car wash. You have permission to watch the movie, even if you buy the Blu-ray, under very specific circumstances and settings. You don't own that film outright. So for a consumer to absorb the cost of a tariff here, there's a lot of hurdles to get there. I'm not too concerned about that. The only thing that we could see, that I don't see this happening in the US, I'm knocking on wood as I say this, is what we've seen in several European territories where the government imposes a tax on movie tickets. That has been disastrous for the governments that have applied that in Europe. There has been no talk of that happening here. So there are worse solutions out there, but that we haven't even seen approached here. The other sort of punitive, and I do think it's punitive to think about it this way, punitive strategy to boost domestic production are screen quotas. Now, this happens a lot in overseas markets in exhibition where one screen of your multiplex or a set number of showtimes have to be dedicated to a certain type of movie that fits in the bill of a domestic production. And every country has a different way of designating what that means. Screen quotas, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of many exhibitors, have also been disastrous for the industry. Fortunately, these topics haven't even been raised in the conversation, but I do want to put them out there as things where we have similar concerns happen in other markets, other countries adopt these methods, and that not worked out. What we haven't seen is a tariff like this in the United States. Now, for something like, let's say, China's Ne Zha 2, the blockbuster animated film out of China, that's something easy that we could point to and say, okay, that is a foreign produced film that we can impose, let's say, an import tariff bringing into the US. But it's not a very clear conversation.
I mean, the other thing that we haven't even talked about is, does this affect movies for streamers? You know,
Right.
Netflix has become a big buyer at festivals. Does that change? There's no even vague suggestion of how the process of buying distribution of a movie at a festival might be affected by some of these policies. You know, there's no suggestion because there's no actual policy. There's just a concept, sort of, or a threat. I don't know, both. What happens to anime? You know, Sony bought a whole exhibition chain with, in part, the concept of having a theatrical outlet for Crunchyroll titles. Those are all produced outside the US. What happens there? We have no answers here.
Let's just give it the entire benefit of the doubt and make it the simplest version of a potential tariff possible. Meaning that if a US studio or production company decides to shoot a film overseas, let's even give the benefit of the doubt here, for non-story reasons, right? Meaning if you're shooting in a studio space that you could be shooting in Atlanta or in LA, but you decide to shoot it in Pinewood or in any other place, that would carry a tariff. That's difficult to also stomach because, as we know, other film industries have some of the best and skilled craft people and below-the-line professionals in the industry, in the UK specifically. We know the directors go to those studios to work with those crews specifically. And B, even if we get to that point of saying, okay, you decided to shoot this, let's say, superhero movie in a foreign backlot instead of a domestic backlot, it receives a tariff. I think then we're at the point of having to ask who exactly is going to be the party that pays it, that is imposed on. And even that is completely unclear. So I think at this point, what we've been able to successfully do in the podcast through twists and turns is establish that a tariff as proposed is full of loopholes and logistical riddles that would make it near impossible to pass.
It does not in any way reflect the actual way this industry is built and operates.
Maybe there's a way you could try to excuse it. I think it would be difficult, and it wouldn't be that many movies, honestly, that would be impacted by this. And B, I think if this does come to fruition, we talk about alienating import of foreign films into the United States, which culturally is, and editorially, I think for all of us, not an advisable solution that helps address the problem at hand, which is to incentivize domestic production. Foreign films playing in US cinemas have absolutely nothing to do with the fact that domestic film production is too expensive. So then let's go a little bit further into the story here. On Monday night, as we get word from, and I'm going to say this sentence out loud, I never thought I would, the Jon Voight Save the Cinema plan, which is a real thing. Actually, before I go into the details, we have a clip here from a message that Jon Voight, who is in the White House Advisory Committee on Hollywood Relations, this is something that Mr. Voight put out on social media earlier this week.
My fellow Americans and my peers of Hollywood, I recently met with our president, Donald J. Trump, who loves the entertainment business, wants to see Hollywood thrive and make films bigger and greater than ever before, as he says, and see productions come back to American Hollywood. The Hollywood that I fell in love with when I was a child and was honored to contribute to during my career. Our industry recently has suffered greatly over these past few years. And many Americans have lost jobs to productions that have gone overseas. It's been very serious. People have lost their homes, can't feed their families. After meeting with many of the entertainment leaders, I have brought forward recommendations to the president for certain tax provisions that can help the industry. Some provisions that could be extended and others that could be revived or instituted. This would help the movie and television production and our beloved theaters that are so important to the American family experience. Our president loves this nation and all the hardworking people in it. He's a great businessman, a leader, and a caring person that will always do the right thing for this country, the people, and our beloved entertainment industry. I'm proud to call the 47th President of the United States of America my friend. And as I've said before, he is the greatest president since Abraham Lincoln. And yes, Sly, George Washington. That's Sly Stallone, my buddy. God bless everybody.
And that was that social media message that Jon Voight, part of the White House Hollywood Committee, put out, explaining his proposal set forward to President Trump. As we get more details on this proposal, guys, we get to see something that is quite different from what Trump said. Part of this Voight proposal is very limited, if any, tariffs, a lot of production incentives, and even a line here, which is very interesting to our listeners, on federal incentives or help in making local cinemas better their facilities and invest in infrastructure. So the Jon Voight thing, which doesn't really mention tariffs or foreign propaganda, but focuses a lot on, hey, let's focus on bringing movie production back to the domestic industry and making sure that cinemas have access to the funds they need to improve their sites. At that point, I think we're talking about something that might have bipartisan support, Russ.
Also, you've got to factor in that California Governor Gavin Newsom on Monday night also talked about the idea of a $7.5 billion federal film tax credit, which would be the first credit of its kind on the federal level. But, also kind of points towards that concept of bipartisan support that you're talking about.
And this would be a rare political win for this political era in the United States, when you have California Democrats working effectively with the Trump administration on something that's going to help the industry. Everything in this Voight plan seems to be a win, but also stands in stark contrast to that message we saw from the president himself on Sunday night. So we don't really know how this all fits in. The one piece I don't want to lose sight on is if exhibition can come out of this with some sort of federal incentive to invest money back into its locations, this is something that goes beyond helping film production in California, which was the original issue at hand. This comes and addresses a real issue in this industry that we know the exhibition industry has been calling for years. This would actually rectify some of the loopholes in the SVOG funding that left out major circuits like Marcus Theaters, Cinemark, AMC, Regal. They would then have federal incentive access to help pour money back into their local theaters. We don't know. We don't know if this Voight proposal is going to make or influence any part of how this gets settled in the coming weeks. But at the very least, we have here an example of still vague, because there's no real specificity to the proposals that Voight makes. And even in the audio clip you just heard, Jon Voight addresses the problem in the first minute and spends the second minute complimenting the precedent instead of specifying how he's going to fix the problem. So that in itself shouldn't really be taken at face value. I don't want to go easy on anyone here. But I do want to say that if Donald Trump showed us the stick solution, Jon Voight is showing us the carrot. Again, sentences I never thought I'd say out loud.
It's a weird, I don't want to see Jon Voight's carrot. But
Come on, man. Midnight Cowboy's great. You're missing out.
It is a great movie. It's wonderful. I do want to say, and I'm not going to go too deep into this, but we've sort of danced around the foreign propaganda part of Trump's initial statement. And as with a lot of things that he puts out on social media, I do always wonder what the origin point for some of the concepts are.
Yeah.
And someone like Stephen Miller, who is very explicitly nationalist and has certainly said other things that make it seem like he would very much like to limit the influence of foreign ideas, foreign countries in the U.S. Makes me wonder if Trump's initial statement was a composite of his own reactions with input from somebody like Stephen Miller, who we know
right,
putting his ideas into his ear,
or anybody else's. Did Trump actually write this, or did he dictate it during dinner?
All of which is merely to say, just because we're not hearing as much about it right now, I am going to reserve a lot of suspicion for the idea that limiting the potential influence of movies created outside of the United States remains a central part of the idea, because that would be consistent with so many other things that we're seeing from this administration.
And that, by the way, would be disastrous for any country to institute a limit on the number of foreign films coming in to play is not the right way of thinking about this industry at all.
Right.
I miss the days when Trump's opinions on the film industry boiled down to Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart's relationship. That was.
But let's go back to that, actually, because there's something that happened when Parasite won Best Picture that actually links to what Russ is saying here. If we remember, Donald Trump at the time put out a message, at that time a tweet, criticizing Parasite winning Best Picture being a foreign film. So this isn't coming entirely out of thin air, right? There is background in here, at least that we know of, dating back a number of years, where Trump personally has reacted to foreign films succeeding at the national stage and criticizing it. So yes, even though we're not giving it a lot of time here, because honestly, what could we possibly say about that?
Too many unknowns right now.
Yeah. It is something that there are parts of at least the Jon Voight plan that I think are very promising, that could get wide bipartisan support. But as Russ states, we can't just give this an all-out free pass. There's an entire underlying resentment here on foreign films somehow carrying influence into the United States that is, at the very least, extremely concerning for anyone that likes going to the movies.
Daniel, you talk about Trump's reaction to Parasite winning. To me, a much more recent red flag is the reaction to No Other Land winning Best Documentary Oscar. We're seeing a lot of other things right now that represent crackdown on pro-Palestinian messaging and ideas. And so, that win does not seem insignificant in the context of this conversation.
So just taking everything at face value, even the positive things, which I do want to remind folks, just if you have strong opinions on the people involved here, just look at what's being proposed. There are parts of what Voight is promoting here that do carry a lot of bipartisan weight, that actually have some real ideas behind them. But behind all of this is that entire second half of that original post on Sunday night, claiming that there is foreign propaganda coming into the United States through cinemas. By the way, this happened to us in the industry in the 1950s. It was a little bit uncomfortable, to say the least, for everybody involved. And there was a trade association called the Motion Picture Association that helped guide us out of it. The Motion Picture Association has not provided any comment on anything that has been going on as of Tuesday afternoon when we record this episode. Coming up after the break, our interview with Brandon Purdie from Angel Studios.
Survival in space.
Jacob, my ankle is hurt, but just leave.
No.
Leave!
No, I won't leave you.
Of Jacob and Sahara. I know! Their fate is tied to the victor. Will hope come in time?
The Kaimojins want to fight, that's what they'll get.
Scared and alone.
They need our help.
Stop! Bring me my gift.
Survival in space. Integrated with Adobe Atmos, captions, ALS, and audio description.
And we are back here on the Box Office Podcast with our returning guest. It's always nice to speak with Brandon Purdie, the EVP and Global Head of Theatrical Distribution and Brand Development at Angel Studios. Brandon, always great to chat here. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always great to be on.
And it's great to be on when you can take a victory lap here. King of Kings. I mean, a lot of folks called it an overperformance. I think we were tracking it like 12 to 18 on release week, which is a big swing, but we always thought it had a good potential to overperform. It was closer to 20 on opening weekend. Fantastic results. Your second highest grossing film following Sound of Freedom in Angel Studios history.
Yes, yeah, we could not be more excited about the performance. Like it's from the very beginning when it went in the Angel Guild, it passed super fast. People voted for it. The Angel Guild loved it. And then we started doing testing and market development. And it's just every once in a while you have a film that every time you go further in the process, you just get more and more validation from the audience and from exhibition. And right off the bat, Brock Bagby at B&B Theaters called me back and was like, "Oh, you got a hit" after he screened it, and like those kind of things. Those kind of things are super important and help you have more confidence in the content. But yeah, it's kind of when the industry and the audience are excited about it. And then the premiere, there was like people cheering during certain parts of the movie, and anyways, and kids, you never know how kids versus families versus parents, how are they going to respond? And yeah, it's been a great response. And then to only be off 9.3% in our second weekend, the theaters were super supportive of the film. We opened on our widest release, screen count wise, location count wise, 3,200, and then our second weekend we expanded to 3,535. And then this weekend it looks like we're going to still be well over 3,000 locations for our third week. So the support from theaters have been great. It's just one of those moments where the theaters, they needed a win. The weekend before it was a big weekend, and we're just excited to be kind of part of this awakening into the spring of our box office this year, and hopefully what becomes a big summer. So.
Oh, we're all hoping for that. What wasn't a guarantee was April, especially after coming on the heels of a very difficult March. But you see how the Angel release strategy is working in action here. You're not putting in 1,000 screens here, 500 screens there. No, you're going wide with these movies, and you're going wide in competitive weekends, undeterred, unfazed. You've had success with this strategy before. And you look at that success of Minecraft bringing in family audiences. You look at the success of Sinners coming in with adult audiences. And you say, hey, we can compete with these guys. We can come in and play a role in the marketplace. And I love that attitude because we are giving moviegoers choice. So the folks that went to Minecraft on opening weekend went to you guys on week 2. And those that wanted to come back kept on coming back in week 3, etc. I really, really like what you guys did in April. And we have to look forward here as well because we've got The Last Rodeo coming out here on May 23rd. This is a highly anticipated title. We've talked about this in the past, Brandon. My family's a big rodeo family. We've got a rodeo rink in the family ranch back in Mexico. And we haven't had a great rodeo movie since 8 Seconds. So this one's it. I was joking with you before the podcast started. As soon as the pre-sales period went up, I was your first ticket in New York City that was bought for this title. What are you guys looking forward to here?
It's this one has been a long time coming. We're super excited about this. We've been able to have the opportunity to work with Neil McDonough on a few films. Homestead last year, we did 20 million in the box office plus. And then we worked with him also on Shift. And he's been a great partner of ours and such a talented actor. And on this one, him and his wife, Reve, are producing it also. And it's resonating incredibly well. The director, John Avnet, and the producers have a relationship that they had during production with the National Bull Riders. And So at every one of these bull riding events that are happening, everything that's going on, Last Rodeo is right in the middle of it all. And anyways, it's shaping up to be something special on that date, and the theaters are supporting us. We have tickets on sale. We've had them on sale for a few weeks, like you said, and it's doing very well.
If any of our listeners have never been to an NBR event, I highly recommend them. When my parents lived in Greensboro, North Carolina for a while, we'd go check out rodeos there. It is some of the most diverse, exciting, and interesting cultural events in the United States that you could ask for. So I'm glad that you have this sort of main role in marketing the film to its core audience there. And it's such a diverse audience, really. It's an international crowd that goes to these events, and I'm sure that's going to be reflected on opening weekend.
Yeah. I mean, it's that audience is excited. The Angel audience. This film, I think, is one of our highest passing scores ever on a film in the Angel Guild.
Wow.
But then also the movie really delivers on like, you don't have to understand rodeo, and you don't have to have any background except for just loving a great story in the cinema. And this movie plays broad to a broad audience. The stakes are high. It's family, kind of this retired bull rider who's coming back to well past retirement to go into a competition to try to earn money to be able to save his grandson. Just a beautiful story and well done.
And that's coming up here at the end of May. Again, in a competitive spot, but I'm sure you guys will be able to work out the niche that you always overperform in. Let's go further down your schedule because there's more to talk about. But before we do, you mentioned the Angel Guild a couple of times already. And we do have to get an update on the success of this. Can you go over the concept of the Angel Guild to some of our listeners that may not be aware of it or familiar with it, and a new benchmark that you guys hit in membership?
Yeah, so the Angel Guild is a community of dedicated people to stories that amplify light. And we have an Angel Guild that votes on the content long before it ever comes to theaters or online. They get to screen the content, vote on it, and if it passes the Angel Guild, meaning that people feel like it, that the story amplifies light, and that they would be highly disappointed if this movie didn't get made. They answer a couple questions. If it passes the Angel Guild, then it either goes theatrical or to other places in distribution. We crossed a million members in the Angel Guild, and that's a rapid growth over the last 6 to 12 months. And we're super excited about that. These people are watching content. They get 2 free tickets to every one of our movies theatrically. They get a vote on films and movies long before they're ever released. And anyways, it's a big moment for us, and it just continues to grow. And these people are also buying tickets early. They're redeeming their free tickets as Guild members, and they're filling cinemas, when we put our tickets on sale almost 8 weeks before a movie opens.
Man, that 8 weeks, I think, is key. Having that long pre-sale period, letting exhibitors know that this is out there and you can connect with those moviegoers on an early basis. I love having those early pre-sale periods the way you guys are putting out there. You mentioned a free ticket initiative as part of the Angel Guild. There was also a free ticket initiative with the King of Kings that I do believe was part of its success. Could you go into that concept? Because you already innovated when it came to the Sound of Freedom with the Pay It Forward campaign. King of Kings brought something else to the table that I think was very successful in its own right.
Yeah, so we did a couple things that were really innovative. We offered kind of a sweepstakes giveaway, a trip to a Holy Land that was tied to pre-sales. Also, we did this Kids Go Free campaign where, with the purchase of a qualifying adult ticket, like a parent buying a ticket, that 2 free tickets for a kid could also accompany that. It was while supplies last, and the supplies didn't last long. It was very effective, and it drove pre-sales and opening weekend. But yeah, I mean, we just we we're so excited to have an animated film in the marketplace and to be able to put it out in to theaters and to have full families going to the cinema and watching movies and returning and talking about it and bringing people back. So to be able to offer something that makes it even easier for families to go see the movie in theaters, that was a fun campaign and was very effective. And yeah, sold a lot of tickets that way to the theater. It definitely contributed to the success of the release. But so did this sweepstakes. We're doing everything we can to just help exhibitors see the fruit of a long pre-sale and to drive tickets early to give signals to film buyers that this movie's going to work. It's going to fill theaters, and we're always pushing for more inventory, more seats, more auditoriums, more show times, and yeah, the theaters are always like incredible to work with. We just keep getting bigger screen counts, and they support us on big dates, and that's crucial. That's crucial to what we're trying to do. The exhibitors are just great partners. Right now we're all just fighting to build the cinema, to build it back up, to get it to the highest possible performance that we can. And when they see a movie starting to perform, they dump gas on the fire. They're just great partners. And there's plenty of room in the cinema. And so bringing movies that are different than this idea that we can rely on one film a weekend to drive box office, I think we see when that's what happens and that film doesn't work, that we're in trouble. And sometimes that happens 3 weeks in a row, and we're in big trouble. So I think having a diverse slate of content, hitting different audiences, I think you saw that happen with this last weekend, 3 very different films, bringing in very different audiences and some overlap. And the cinema thrives. And I talked about that at CinemaCon also, about how important it is that audiences see that the theater is a destination for films that they like to watch, and that they don't start to believe that they should just park it on the couch and watch content at home. And so this last weekend is exciting to me to see that work and to see, so many great films in the cinema this last weekend. So all performing.
Now, it's great to see these performances, and like you say, from a diverse positioning in terms of films, in terms of audiences, and on the pricing situation. It's something that a lot of studios said at CinemaCon. We have to be a little bit more creative when it comes to pricing to make sure families come back. You guys aren't saying it, you're doing it. And you're seeing the results of it, and exhibitors are benefiting from those results. The Angel Guild, I think, is a great platform to build on a lot of this awareness, a lot of this success. And I do have to ask, there was a big acquisition that you guys announced right before CinemaCon of a title that got great reviews at Toronto. This is a movie called Sketch, which is scheduled for release on August 6th. When it comes to an acquisition, when it comes to a pickup from a major festival, how does the Guild influence those decisions?
Yeah. So, number one, we're super excited about this film. Like it's something like, it's like nothing we've ever released before. But again, everything still has to go through the Angel Guild, where people get a vote on content. And so, we talked to the filmmakers and went back and forth with them, and it's a brilliant film. We put it into the Angel Guild, is screened, and it passed the Angel Guild. So that same group of people who have passed have approved all the films that we've put out and released, whether they're on the Angel Guild or whether they're in theaters on the big screen, no matter how we take them out, and it passed. And so this is an exciting moment where, this is a broadening and a diversifying of our slate of films too, and will only continue to build out the audience of people who want, the Guild passed this movie as a movie that is a story that amplifies life. And so I think this just leaves a lot of really exciting opportunity for the future of what kind of films we'll be working with and putting out. And, but I got to tell you, we just did a screening a week ago. Tony Hell and Seth Worley were in town, the director, and it was ruckus. Like our whole team was there. We were cheering and laughing, and people were like, it's such a fun movie. Like, blown away by how powerful the film is, and also how Seth, the director of the film, really is able to tell a story that is like, it does have the big monster moments and it does have the big cinema summer moments, but also it has this massive like heart and soul moments that just totally deliver. And Tony Hell is brilliant in it. Darcy Carden, like the kids in this movie. Yeah, we're super excited about this movie. So we're coming out in August 6th, which is the Wednesday. Our plan is to do a whole bunch of work with some initiating some early audiences to come out and see the movie, and trying to get as many summer days into the release before school goes back. So actually getting ready to fly out to LA. We're doing a photo shoot to kind of prepare to get all of our final poster art and trailers and everything put together. So in the next month, there'll be some big fun announcements for Sketch.
Now, you've also got in the October corridor, October 17th, another historical thriller here, Truth and Treason, in a corridor that isn't too far away from where you found success with Bonhoeffer last year. Can you tell us more about this title closer into the fall months?
Yeah. This movie, Matt Whitaker, the director of this film, has been working on telling this story for, I think, almost 25 years. Like, I think one of the first things that came across my desk when I started in distribution was some proof of concept footage for this movie over 20 years ago. And it's been an important story to him. It's the story of Helmut Hubner. And he is a 16-year-old young man who, his friend is taken off to a concentration camp, and he is just noticing that something is not right. Like, something is, he's just feeling the wrongness of what's happening in his country. And he gets his hands on a radio, and he's able to start hearing these BBC broadcasts, and he's noticing the difference between what he's hearing in propaganda in Germany and what he's hearing on these broadcasts. And so he starts to distribute leaflets from these broadcasts and distributes them on Gestapo kind of Nazi boards, bulletin boards around town. So it's a historical piece, but it's really like a chase thriller. It's kind of like they're trying to figure out who are these people, and they're just bold and boldly going out and kind of professing, like putting the truth out there. And it's a beautiful movie. Matt and the team at Kaleidoscope totally delivered on just an absolutely spectacular movie. So yeah, we're excited to release that October 17th. And the movie offers an amazing cinematic storytelling moment in the cinema. And but then the story, when you hear the story and you watch it play out, you just think, man, how did this ever happen? And so glad that these stories are being told so the world knows about them. And anyways, it's a really powerful film.
And we're going to close out the year here with December 19th. Now, a lot of folks have this date circled in red on their release calendar. You're going up against Jim Cameron, but you're going up against Jim Cameron with, in my opinion, this looks to be, just from the teaser trailer alone, probably the most ambitious movie I've seen you guys get involved with. Zero AD, directed by Alejandro Monteverde, whose previous film, Sound of Freedom, was a smash hit a couple of years back. Zero AD brings a couple of major stars into the fold with a very ambitious story. The footage looks gorgeous, by the way. Folks can check out that teaser on the Angel Studios website. What can you tell us about your counter-programming play here? Because Zero AD is a lot of things, but it's not a small movie.
No, it's not a small movie. No, it's for sure our biggest budget film that we've ever released. Alejandro Monteverde is a genius, and he's so fun to work with. And his vision for this movie is just every time he opens his mouth, it's like the vision gets bigger and bolder. And yeah, I mean, it also stars Sam Worthington. So it's an interesting competitive release window. But, the subject matter matches with the time of year. Mm-hmm. And we really feel like there's an audience for this. He's proven with his films, not only Sound of Freedom, but also Cabrini, that he just makes movies for the big screen, big, beautiful, films. And again, we need more than one movie at a time winning in theaters. And so we feel like this is a good window to bring out an audience for. And, it's like a story that everybody has heard, but never heard in this way. And so, we're excited about it. Also bringing back, Jim Caviezel, which, for Sound of Freedom, Alejandro and Jim were in that. Ben Mendelsohn and Gael Garcia Bernal. Just a powerful cast. The film is, from what I've seen so far, is beautiful. It's like every shot's painting. I think that I'm hoping that we break some records as far as attendance in the cinemas go on that date with all films combined. So it'll be another big window.
Well, it addresses something that we've been saying for a long time here in this industry. Premium large format screens are great. I know it's a big trend. What are you going to do with your other 9 screens? And we know that Avatar is going to lock up those premium format screens, and we're all going to benefit from it. There's a lot of folks that don't have premium format screens that also need top tier content. And the way to compete, the way to thrive is to make sure that they have top and high quality films, and that's exactly the niche that Zero AD is coming in on that weekend. Yes, there's going to be the fancy multiplex that has the big lights on the huge auditorium. We know that movie's playing there, but there are other movies that demand your attention as well coming out that same weekend that every theater in America, that any auditorium in the United States can play. And that's what I love about your very bold release strategy for Zero AD. I'm very confident that it's going to find that audience.
Yeah, we feel confident in this one, hence the date. And it's spectacular. I can't wait till we have a teaser trailer out there, but in the next few months we'll have a full-length trailer and final poster. And when you're working with the kind of artistry that Alejandro brings, it's honestly, for a cinema nerd like myself, it's so fun, man. Like every piece of content, every time he sends us a clip or a little bit of the movie, it just builds and gets bigger and bigger. And really, like, it's the reason we go to the cinema, these kind of movies. So I'm very, very excited to release more and more content as we get through the year, ramping up to this.
Well, I'm excited to find out more. And for those folks heading over to CineEurope in June, Angel Studios will be there. So I'm excited to make sure to catch up all of the latest updates at that conference coming up in a couple of months.
Yeah, we have an exciting couple of announcements we'll be making there on some other acquisitions we have for next year.
Well, we'll find out soon enough. Brandon, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man.